Go. All right, let's have a call to order. We'll start the meeting at 6:32, the regular February 4th, 2025 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Let's all stand to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I ask Noah if he can hear us, please?
Can you do the roll call, Amy?
Sure thing. Commissioner Powell.
Present.
Commissioner Tucker.
Here.
Commissioner Kelly.
Here.
Chairperson Robinson.
Here.
Ex officio Curry.
Here.
And ex officio Peterson.
Here.
And then we have the town manager and the assistant clerk hosting.
Oh, I thank you. I like hosting. I feel like you should have aprons on if you're hosting. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks.
This is the point where anyone here can identify actual or perceived conflicts of interest with anything on our agenda tonight. Is there anything? Conflicts of interest? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll move on to public participation. 5 minutes per person. We don't have anybody in the audience tonight from the public. Do we have anybody online?
We do have 2 users online. They're both muted.
Okay. I assume they will, people online, if you want to speak up, it's your point. This is the point you can.
It's John Hernandez and a Zoom user.
I'm just an observer.
Okay. Thank you.
What do you say?
He was an observer. All right. We have the agenda in front of you. I'll need an approval of the agenda and a second. I need a motion and a second motion to approve the agenda. Excuse my
Motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. I'll need a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the January 7th, 2025 meeting.
I have one question, but it could be my brain has an immersion blender in it. But I don't think they're labeled as the minutes.
No, they're not.
No, they're not.
They're not.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
So no worries, but
I can amend that.
Okay, please amend it.
I always have
It's because I overwrite the agenda to make the minutes. I forget.
Yeah, I couldn't quite recognize it for some reason at first.
It's all right.
Okay. All right,
Do we have a motion in a second?
we would have to have a motion and a second with a
It's just it's a typo.
Approve the minutes as
Yeah,
the amended title.
okay.
second.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
We have a motion to approve the minutes with the title being amended or added. There's not a title on the current one. As minutes of the January 7th meetings. Instead
Me
of
too.
nothing, I guess. All right, all in favor of approving the minutes with the recommended amendments, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Staff reports, Manager Reeves.
Okay. So the December report got included in your, but we have I'm gonna just verbally go through the January 22nd report, which was the
Yeah, I
last,
was wondering,
was the last meeting. So you might have seen in the paper that the crisis intervention program looked like it was in jeopardy for a moment. And Mancus has taken over managing it, and it will continue at least through June. We're actively looking for grants to have it go for the rest of the year. If everybody knows
was it previously under the sheriff department?
No, it was under the county.
Oh, okay.
So it got, like, on December 18th, it was like, oh, we don't have any money. So, anyway, it's back,
Okay.
which was great, because we actually had, someone use it here in town
Oh, really?
last week, yep. Okay, so if we think about the property to the west of the Exxon building, that's Jordan Lang and Darby Zed.
Detloff.
Yes. They met with, and I met with, Chris Lopez from Chaffa, because they're trying to figure out if they can do something with that property that includes housing. And so, you know, if you start to define what that, when we say 30% commercial, so you have Kelly, who's a commercial facility using part of it, and you have Mary Beth using as a pop-up store. So the question that I had was, is that 30%? And, you know, that is a 30%, and it's really just for thought, right? It's not defined, definitively defined anyway. So, you know, if any one of those, if Kelly's closed or the pop-up went away, then it wouldn't be 30% anymore. But it's an interesting thought about
If
how
the
to get-
use as opposed to a structure
Right, yeah.
is adequate, yeah.
Any use?
Huh?
Did you say any use?
No,
No.
a commercial use as opposed to a commercial, a structure that's inhabited for commercial use.
Confusion.
Instead of a building
Right.
that is a store,
Sure,
but a patio, for instance, that
right, that
doesn't
would
have a
not be,
building.
or it could be.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, right?
I don't know.
I don't either, that's what I was sort of reporting
we
back
need-
to the board.
Do we need to figure that out in the,
I don't know, it's a good question, probably.
I've got a question too. Is it currently, how is it categorized for tax purposes, property tax purposes? Because the
I don't
rates
actually
are so
know.
different.
Yeah,
So if the property is currently classified as residential.
zoned
yeah, I
Well,
don't,
I don't know what,
well, it's
county,
commercial.
for appraisal
For
services?
property
but-
taxes,
Yeah.
yeah, the county bases its taxes on their classification of the
Yeah.
property, not our zone.
So it would be our zone, so, but having had, I used to own one of those fourplexes.
Oh, yeah.
And half of it was commercial and half of it was residential. And those two different uses resulted in it getting property taxed at different rates, 50/50.
And the assessor, I think that the assessor establishes the tax grade or whatever it's called, the tax.
But I'm just saying that would be interesting information to know how the assessor had it classified and how the
Yeah, sure.
county was taxing it.
What was there before? Because there's big chunks of concrete.
It,
Hardware store.
yeah, it burnt down a long
Then
time
that's
ago.
probably, it's
It was
probably
a lumber,
commercial.
I thought it was a lumber. Yeah.
That was across the street where the brew pub is now.
And they sold fuel because we had to remove an abandoned
It was a
tank.
gas station. That was
Yeah,
a-
that was a Koenig.
Conan gas station.
Yeah.
The assessor assesses property like ours, both because we have a short term on there, it's commercial, we get charged commercial taxes on our property because we run a short term vacation rental
Oh,
For the whole
Really?
thing.
for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which is
I,
really tough.
that's a lot.
yeah,
Really
that's a big
tough,
difference.
because it's
a big
humongous difference, so.
So
So how-
they've changed, it's been a long time since we had commercial property,
Mhm.
but,
And I can go in there and prove, if we yield using it commercially, then I can go in there and have the assessor reassess and change it
Yeah.
for us, but
yeah,
that's how it is in that circumstance, so I'm sure it might be similar on Darby's lot as well.
How do they,
So how did they find out?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, not that you're trying to evade, but I'm saying, like, what causes that to, because I never knew that happened.
Sales tax, I believe.
Oh, so, yeah, because
They
you're,
see us
you're
Oh.
reporting the
filing
sales tax, and that gets reported, and then it triggers the,
And then they only do it they only reassess it, I think, every 3 years or something. So even if.
3 or 2?
Yeah, it's
It
kind
was
of
2 years.
2 years,
Yeah.
Unless you appeal.
unless I appeal,
Mhm.
yeah, which I haven't been able to at this point, so. It's a big tax bill.
yeah.
is that for all your properties or just one?
Just the one, the 310 Riverside.
So does that piece of property go north of the alley?
I don't think so, does it?
Which piece?
When
Darby's.
you're
No.
talking about building or
Uh-uh.
housing on
Mm-mm, it ends, it doesn't
It has a
include that.
commercial structure on it, it has an ice,
there? Yeah,
That
it's got the
box.
old
Yeah.
telephone thing or something.
no, the ice plant.
No.
Chris,
I
did you get a
see.
notification?
Yeah, the telephone thing is behind it.
Did you get a notification, like, when that happened? Like, did you get
Oh, yeah.
like, an assessment notice,
Oh,
and then it had, like, a letter or something that told you that they had
Well, no.
reclassified it?
Yeah.
Okay.
They also, if you have vacant property, it gets taxed at a higher rate.
Okay,
That's right, based on the county thing.
Yeah.
Been done.
okay.
Been done
So, okay, so did you note a couple questions about that we can go figure out?
Yes.
Okay.
So anyway, did you have any other information from Chris Chavez?
No, they are, they applied for a technical grant. So
Okay.
what that does is allow them to find somebody to help them navigate land use codes, building codes, what they can do, what they can't do, fill out paperwork,
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
planner kind of person.
Yeah, that's right. Somebody who has
Yeah.
done it before and knows how to navigate it. So that's where they are. It's really a good program that trying to push more people to the technical grant part because it allows them to get help in a situation when they don't know.
Solve problems and, yeah.
Yeah,
Is that Chafa or Chapa?
it's CHAFA. So
CHAFA.
it's Colorado Housing and Finance Authority. So
Okay.
when they started, way back when, they got seed money, and now it's like their own endowment. And all of their grant money comes from their endowment.
Oh,
So they have done pretty well. They will help with low interest rates for affordable housing. They'll help with money for the down payment. They help with all kinds of things.
Is that technical assistance for primarily affordable housing versus
Nope,
it can be for any developing
Yeah,
housing
that's right.
or,
You could use them if you wanted to.
interesting.
Yeah, the Mancus has Startup Colorado coming on the 11th, and they're really good at that too. They'll help you find funding
Nice.
and such. So, when you get those two together, then it really, you can actually get a lot of stuff done.
Is
Yeah.
Startup Colorado's focus broader than housing or?
Yeah, it's economic development more than
Okay.
housing. Startup Colorado is not really about housing.
Okay.
It's where you can get help with financials. Like so many businesses get started without the actual,
Plan.
like, what do I need to make every day
Yeah,
on average to make my
Yeah.
business viable for more than a year, right? That's why so many businesses go out so fast.
Is this Chafa, is this for people that are wanting to buy property and need that technical assistance as far as planning? Or is this for people that have existing
both.
properties as well?
Both.
Both, okay.
Chafa helps.
I got a chaffle loan because I was, as a first-time homeowner
Yeah,
for
yeah,
my house
yeah.
20-some years ago.
But they will help with all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
They're helping Leadership Montezuma and Montezuma County with resiliency, like if we had another
Mhm.
situation where all of a sudden we didn't have any income.
Yeah.
So,
I'm working to Morgan.
they're great for all kinds of things. So, I can get Chris's information if you want it, either one of you, anybody.
Yeah.
Only because you could just call him and have a conversation.
Yeah.
And he'll tell you, I mean, he's an easy guy to work with and
Chris
just-
Lopez?
Chris Lopez,
Okay.
yeah. He's just trying to help people, especially down here in the rural parts. So I spoke with Leah Reed, who's from GoCo, and, we're getting our first installment of, the GoCo grant for the bike park. We have to do that in order to move forward. So it's 184K, which we're not really in a position to front, so they're gonna pay us and we're gonna pay them upfront of the, it's 4-part payment, so we'll be doing this frequently. But construction should start, let's see, it'll start is in late June, early July, and the completion will be no later than October 1st. So, the skate park's gonna take 6 to 8 weeks, and the bike park will take 3 to 4 weeks, and some of it simultaneously. And then the pump track, we'll have to do the pump track after that. So we, when I say we, the Lost Canyon Bike and Skate Club is looking to raise $150,000 to complete the match, so.
Not to bake sales.
Lots of big sales, yeah. We put together a whole plan, like, to talk to Berga and different people,
Yeah,
Tony Hawk, you know, whoever.
yeah.
Let's see, okay, I know you came to the Wildfire Resiliency Board and you two both came, right? No,
I did.
Okay.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
there's gonna be new regulations around building codes, and regulation around making properties more fire resilient. Cause essentially a lot of people are getting their insurance just straight out canceled.
Yeah.
So we have a recording if anybody wants to see it. It's gonna be, some of it's gonna be difficult because the outsides of your properties, if you, and I mean, a lot of it's gonna come from what happened in LA, right? So there were a few people, there was one house in Malibu, I don't know if you saw it, but, its whole, the windward way for Santa Ana winds was just no windows, no vents, no nothing, just flat out. Okay, so they had no trees within, you know, indefensible trees, no matchsticks like the one right outside the door here. And it
Although they're
survived.
fire resistant.
Well,
I mean, our native trees are have developed to be fire resistant,
sort
so,
of, yeah.
so be careful.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna start it on fire for sure.
No.
But yeah, so if you, they're not pretty to look at, but they did survive. So, they are dictating what the outsides of buildings will be made of.
What was that one?
Who's
made of?
they?
This board,
The board, okay.
the state,
Okay.
essentially.
It's a commission that was appointed by
Yeah,
the
it was
governor.
not vinyl, right? So it was, metal, adobe, stucco, and, there is some wood that's treated with
Concrete,
concrete, fire
concrete
resiliency.
siding.
Yeah, so there are, you can use wood, but it's gonna be, treated in such a way that it's gonna
Did they
be
say that,
really
I
expensive.
thought maybe we couldn't use wood.
Well, I'm not
Because
sure.
because the fire retardant isn't that good,
Yeah, I don't really know in the
Yeah,
end,
yeah.
we don't have them yet.
yeah.
But basically you have 90 days to adopt it once they send it down.
Oh, so we have to adopt it.
You don't have a choice.
And their plant list was like, the only approved tree was a crabapple.
Whoops, sorry.
They referred, I mean, I think it's really poor planning. They just referred to a document from CSU of fire resistant plants, and that's what would be allowed. And that's the only tree on it.
Yeah,
And there's like 2 shrubs or something. I
Right.
mean, it's really not, I mean, that's not true. It's actually not true.
Well, hopefully it'll be broader than that.
How would that affect like our land use code with regards to, expansion of, building footprints and then landscaping? Would that affect that?
We'll have to look at it.
Yeah, once the finalized thing, I mean, landscaping, yes.
We don't,
Because if there's, only allowing, is that for stuff that's new, or does that even go to like, if you're
I think it's
expanding
for
a
stuff
building?
that's new.
Yeah.
But even if you're building onto something,
Well,
right?
it hits that percentage.
If it's a percentage.
Yeah,
If
so
it's
then,
over
Percentage.
25% of
Yeah, that's gonna
a
get-
side of a building, it
well,
doesn't even matter if it's the whole building.
Yeah.
mm,
It's not clear yet,
yeah, okay.
so we'll have to
We'll probably have to
clarify
look
once.
at it.
So get to planting.
Mhm.
Get them trees in the ground. We got 90 days.
I don't know, I was at Colorado Pro Green last
Right
week
now.
and attended some sessions related to this, and actually the guy who was presenting hadn't heard of this.
Oh, that's always a sharing, isn't it?
And so some people informed him, but, I mean, I fully expect that there's gonna be some pushback
For sure.
on some of the limitations, because it just, some of them don't make sense, so, and I don't think they probably had enough input.
No,
so,
and
at
I
this
don't think
point.
it's,
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think it's anywhere close to done.
yeah, okay.
I don't. Just because of stuff like that.
Because there's like different plant properties that have different chemical qualities
Sure.
that are going to be more fire resistant than others, and it's hard to identify those without a little bit more, all of those, without somebody really, looking at it.
Yep. We replaced our judge. So we had 2 candidates. We interviewed those candidates last week and made an offer to the one that the board decided on, and she accepted. And so at the next meeting, she will become our new judge.
All thanks to Zoom.
Yep, all thanks to Zoom.
What's her name?
Kristen Tarrant. She's let's see, she wears about 3 judge hats around here. She's the Dolores County judge, the Dove Creek judge, and she does something in Westchester too. And I'm sorry, Westchester, wow. In Montezuma.
Oh. What would she do in Montezuma? You mean Montezuma County,
Yes,
not Montezuma Creek? I was like,
no,
Oh.
Montezuma County. I don't even know where Montezuma Creek is, so,
sorry.
well, that's okay.
I was just thinking of outliers.
Right. Okay, so David, Randy, and I are trying to meet bi-weekly. It didn't work this week. To complete construction standards before the Phase 2 water project goes into play.
Construction standards for that water project? Or
Not for it, we want it completed so that we know what, we have no standards right now.
for,
Construction standards, like,
Streets.
you're gonna dig down 4 feet and you're gonna put your main sewer line in, and you're gonna have
Oh,
tracer wire, and it's gonna be,
it means, yeah, construction
Construction
documents.
standards,
Yeah.
I guess we had some and they got destroyed.
Mm.
I don't know where they disappeared to, but,
They got repealed and replaced by our land use code.
which doesn't come with construction standards.
Oh, that's weird.
Weird.
Yeah.
That's pretty weird.
So the property owners at 43 Porter Way are putting together their plan to build on that property. So they're putting together their engineering plan. We did speak to the Bureau of Recreation, and they gave them the approval to move forward in terms of the proper deed of that property, because it was taken through eminent domain, and then it was handed off by a previous town manager and trade for another piece of property, and then it was sold by that property owner. And so there was a question about it for about 15 minutes, and that got resolved. So we will be requiring an easement to keep the culverts clean and clear of debris. And they have to sort out some right-of-way issues with their neighbors. So I don't know if you saw
What is
this,
the
but
address like that? I'm sorry.
43 Porter Way. It's in between Mud Puppies and the Doofers.
Okay.
Um,
They were okay with the easement as far as you know, too?
the easement.
Having the easement for us with that, because I thought I remember.
Not yet. I mean, we don't have a plan from them, right? We just
Got it.
told them they could move forward with getting their plan, so they have to do a lot of engineering. And I'm uncertain as to, I also informed them that they needed to talk to Empire, because there's a 3-phase power line going over that property.
Huh.
And it's, you know,
No.
it cannot be like above the house,
Yeah.
so. But that's now on them to sort all that out and decide if they want to move forward. There was an article in the journal about the Phase 2 water project, that probably everybody got their water bills. Okay, good. Me too. Okay, we provided a copy of ordinance 577, because there was a homeowner that came in and wanted a exemption from the 577. Says if you have piggybacked and created another unit, you have to pay 2 water bills. And she wanted an exemption for that. And so we just included the copy of the ordinance, and then at the next board meeting, we'll hopefully get that resolved. So,
What was her basis for wanting an exception?
that it wasn't a dwelling unit, and, she was older and couldn't afford it. Any other?
She uses it like as a sewing studio,
A
right?
sewing
yeah.
studio.
More like a guest space if needed.
Yeah.
Rather-
Let's see, okay, so we had the easement contract signed again by, Josh Martin, who's doing the builder on 15th and 16th Street. And, it was really just informational, so he has to still, before he can sell his last 2 properties, before he'll get a CO, he has to fix the culvert, the sidewalks, and the fences, so.
That's something we talked about
Years ago.
a couple of years ago, maybe. Yeah.
That's when I was mayor. So, and then we had a board-to-board meeting with the Cortez Council, Megas Board, County Commissioners, the tribe. Linda attended. I think we had great attendance and really good conversation. We got to kick it off since we hosted, and a number of the trustees were able to ask questions of individual people, or individual people's towns representatives answered for them, which I thought was a really nice way to do it, as opposed to, we usually get up and say the same thing that we said in the last 4 ones, because it takes multiple years to complete a project in government. So, it was good to have.
Yeah, just have
It was
questions.
a nice.
Yeah.
Okay, finally closed forever for now, our affordable housing grant, which was great. We got our last payment. All of the documents were accepted, and because Rural Homes had to provide some subcontracts. The state is definitely getting stickier on grants.
So, did we get a grant, or? is
Well,
this an
remember, it's
application?
from 3 years ago?
Well, I couldn't remember if we actually got it.
Yeah, we got it,
For construction or just the planning?
just the planning.
Yeah, okay,
It
yeah.
finally got closed.
All right.
You've probably seen the new bear-proof trash can in Flanders Park, located next to the restrooms.
I haven't been there, but.
What's going on with the restrooms
What restroom?
at Flanders?
Oh.
It's like all this work going on around it.
Oh. Okay, so it turns out that when they poured the concrete for the ADA thing,
Mhm.
the sewer line was like this.
Oh.
Dear.
So needless to say, shit still doesn't flow uphill.
Right,
And so we had to dig that all out.
okay.
The water line and the sewer line froze. We had to dig both of them up. The water line was only 6 inches under the concrete. And so those have both been done properly, insulated for the water.
Who
And I
did those?
think it'll be, I'm sorry,
Did the town staff do that work
what's that?
No.
No,
initially,
uh-uh.
or did
No, the contractor did it.
contractor did it? Okay, Candelaria Construction.
No,
No.
it was Jay Cruzan.
Cruzan.
We inspected it, correct?
We're not allowed to inspect our own properties, so Sean Canada inspected it.
Oh,
Oh.
So now we're kicking ourselves that we didn't pre-inspect it.
Isaac the plumber also said something about the concrete truck being what he thinks might have caused the problem.
Yeah, it didn't though.
It didn't?
Uh-uh. It wasn't possible. You could tell, I mean, I looked in it like at least 4 times, the way the glue was on the pipe, that it was glued like this.
Hmm.
So he can say that all he wants, but the concrete truck didn't do that.
Didn't glue it.
Right? Yeah, the concrete truck did not glue it.
Bummer.
We have a new format for budget analysis, and that'll be in our next upcoming meetings.
Is that
Um,
coming from the new software you have?
No,
That's
not
just-
yet.
okay.
It's just coming from the new treasurer we have.
Yeah.
Okay, so as the zoning administrator, I received a request about building a tiny house on 7th Street. So that got thrown out to the board, and they wanted to give it back to you guys to take a look at. And quite honestly, with, I need to do some more research, but with the amount of property and then setbacks and that sort of thing, I'm not sure it'll fit. Especially in terms of how much of the property is being used. So, but it is something to consider. I was looking up in, it's defined in the statutory books there. So the tiny houses are 400 square feet or less and comply with building codes.
Yes.
And then tiny homes are built on chassis. So, we can either try to sort this out here, or we can just say we don't want to and tell the board to do it.
So is it 400 square feet or under, right?
Yeah,
And what's there now?
nothing.
Nothing, so
I
it's
mean, it's
just,
a house, so it's it's across the alley from us.
Mhm.
That house that they're remodeling right now. She wants to put an ADU on there.
Oh, okay, so it's an ADU, okay,
Well, she's calling it a tiny home
yeah,
because she wants it to be a full-fledged home or
right,
house.
It has to be according to
Right.
the-
yeah,
Right, but like an ADU, you could, like what's on the, the Toolies or whatever, or not even 208, I should use an address because they don't even own it. Is it 208 or 21st?
208 North 20th has a ADU over a garage.
Yeah, so I guess it depends on how we're gonna define ADU and tiny home, because essentially she'd be putting, I mean, people are living in a lot less, right?
right,
You have people living in plastic sheds from Home Depot. And then an extension cord.
well, I guess I guess I would wonder, why wouldn't it be an ADU?
Yeah.
It is an
it's a
ADU.
It is an
question.
ADU, oh,
Yeah.
okay,
It is an
okay.
ADU.
Yeah,
And I
so-
think the discussion is she wanting to pull something in?
I don't think so.
She's just trying, or she just wants to build
I think she
something.
just wants to build and is calling it a tiny house.
Well, it still has to
It has to conform to building code.
conform to building codes and doesn't have to conform to lot coverage?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying,
That's
lot
the
coverage,
issue.
yeah.
The issue's the lot
Lot
coverage.
coverage,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, and right now, our minimum size for an ADU is 800 square feet?
Right, I think
I
that's.
thought we reduced
Oh, I thought we
it.
changed that.
I thought we
I
reduced
don't
it a
know.
lot.
Thought so too.
I thought we talked about it.
I don't think
Oh.
we
It
did.
did, it's changed in the land use code, but I don't know if it's 800 or 600.
I thought it was
I thought it went
600.
down, yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure.
Well, it's
No,
not,
I
it's
think-
not 400 or less, for sure.
I
Oh,
thought we
I
went
wonder
down
if
to
we have-
that.
I thought
Yeah,
so too.
I thought we
so
went
too.
down to that.
Huh,
I don't think we have any ordinance or anything in the land use code that goes down to that.
Huh.
We can look for sure.
We have apartments can be 400 square feet.
so the issue is that it may not conform with the minimum square foot, for the ADU, correct, or no?
No,
The minimum lot,
Well, the lot,
square
in
foot
this
for the lot.
case, right, so it's a two-pronged thing, right? There's an actual case of someone who wants to build a tiny house. You know, I don't know if she looked up the definition in the Colorado statute.
Well, you can
To
tell her
define
what
that?
she can build.
Sure, yeah, or, I mean, I don't know that we can, so it comes down to like density.
Size
Sure,
she could build and what
right,
the dimensions.
but I'm pretty
and-
sure Ann's right, it's 800.
Oh,
Where did you guys find that? Can
Yeah.
you direct us, please?
So it's in chapter 3,
Section 3?
section 3,
Zone districts.
article 3,
Article 3,
article 3.
yes.
Um, bulk area for residential use, for residential zone. There's a table. I can't remember the table number.
I mean, this is kind of
3.2.
important stuff to
Yeah, sure.
look
Yeah,
up.
yeah, take a
You want
look
me
at
to-
it.
Do you want me to grab yours?
And lot coverage, what is lot coverage on a residential lot?
Well, it's in that same table.
I think we went up to 60%. We can have 60% coverage.
I think you're right about that.
But it used
But
to
we
be
gotta
50,
look
but
in, we gotta look in the residential zone, cause that's the zone that we're,
Yeah, and I
That's
think,
She's in
question.
it's residential.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that went up to 60. Okay. Bulk, industrial district, public districts,
So it's-
mixed use district,
yeah, you have to kind of
manufacturing,
flip
residential districts. Area and bulk standards.
yeah, that's it.
Development and design standards, section 3.5,
Page 59.
page 59.
Oh, here we go.
Can you remind me, Leah, of what we approved when it came to tiny homes and tiny houses a month or two ago?
It's just the definition.
That was all it was, huh?
We just
Yeah.
added the
Just-
definition.
This
Yep.
Article 2.
That's it, okay.
We have a lot of definitions in Article 2 that we don't have provisions for in the land use code at this time.
So now we have definitions for these two dwellings.
I remember we added that it could be, we were gonna add it to certain zones, right? So certain zones were allowed, that weren't allowed before
We had
to have it, but then I thought,
That's in the
That's
packet.
That's an accessory structure.
Accessory structure, we do have that.
That was,
And that in the handout that she gave us, that's
oh,
a copy from the land use code.
This
There.
It's this chart. So we changed some of this. To be
Yeah,
additional
okay.
uses, so.
I have that, okay, so I have it in this packet.
When can I get one of those books?
I know,
I
When-
need one so bad.
I can't,
So it's
a job
permitted in most
that
places.
I've been kind of designated to upgrade.
Accessory dwelling
Not
units
easy.
are
And
permitted
have enough
in
time to sit. and
large
do
lot
it.
Yeah.
residential,
It's in pretty
large
good condition.
Expensive.
R1,
It doesn't have
R2,
contents. It doesn't have,
neighborhood
page
residential,
numbers for sections.
and there's conditional
in any
uses
of the articles.
you can
And that's
apply
because we,
to
Yeah.
the new
for
adopted
them
land use
in
code.
neighborhood
didn't
residential
come
2,
with all
neighborhood
that, essentially
residential
pre-done.
3, and
Yeah, because it's
downtown mixed
elected
use and
on the
commercial
media
mixed
code
use. It's
website.
allowed in
For
residential 10
all
and
of our
residential
ordinances.
35.
And you can open each
So accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah.
with a cursor,
Accessory dwelling
and it
units.
opens the document to where you want to be.
Hmm,
And our
which is super
paper,
handy, I like that. It's very useful.
yeah.
Just one of these would be so nice.
And it's
like-
permitted.
I can make you paper copies without table of contents, and we can have it later. I
Yeah,
mean, that might be a work of our own time.
I might take that, cause I could even make my own essential
Okay, max
basic guide of contact.
percentage. This might be
Structure, yeah, look at here, it says, it still, no,
20%.
it still says 800.
Yeah, I don't think we ever changed
I swear to
that.
God, we talked,
I thought
we
we
talked a
did.
lot about it.
Yeah, we did.
We'll have to look at, is that, before we amended it and got it
Yes,
codified?
I mean, we
Used
still
to
have
be-
the old stuff,
So-
It used to
which
be
is,
900 is what I remember.
So if you give me,
Before we moved it down to 800.
I thought we went lower for,
Well, I remember just the 900 was in the old land use
Okay.
code, that's what was there, we did knock it back.
You go
but these are
online?
for, let's see,
So we did
single
change
lots,
them.
these are for single, these are for
Yeah, they're single family.
single-family homes, and they don't really,
address the.
address an ADU
ADU.
situation. And for another unit, for multifamily units, it's 400 per unit. Townhouse is 800 per unit. So ADUs are not either a main structure or a townhouse or an apartment. They could
Right.
be considered an apartment if they're an ADU.
Yeah.
I don't know how the building code defines apartments. I think it's not a single, it's not
Well,
gonna be
maybe
a
for the
single.
purposes
Well,
of lot coverage
I don't know,
and
does
size.
the apartment, well, it has multifamily. I guess they're talking about attached structures,
Right.
but,
So in the
well, we need
R1,
some we would probably need to have a clarification on what an ADU minimum size could be. 'Cause we
It
don't
should
address
have it in there, accessory building.
Probably the new thing that's in our
I don't have the
package,
new one.
that, ADU was didn't count against your lot coverage, but it had to be a self-sufficient,
Mm-hmm, yes.
functional dwelling. And I don't know if the minimum, if it's 800 feet, doesn't make sense.
Accessory structure
that's too big.
setbacks,
It would be big.
accessory buildings. There's some setback requirements for accessory structure setbacks. But that's not defining a dwelling unit. That could be a garage or,
Right.
huh,
I think it was, I thought it was changed to 600, then we had discussion about, because of this, of tiny homes being, or the tiny,
where
yeah,
did,
tiny homes being a maximum of 400
something
square
got
feet.
lost in there.
We were, I don't think we just discussed it,
Right.
and so that's kind of where we left it, if I remember right.
So tiny homes would therefore be the smallest allowable structure if we were to proceed allowing tiny houses. Those would be the smallest
Yeah.
allowable dwelling units in town.
Tiny homes would be on wheels.
Tiny
And
houses.
tiny house,
Tiny houses
I
would be the
think we should
smallest
be-
structure.
and they're both, I think, a maximum of 400 square feet. So,
And I have a question on whether we want to have we want to have
Homes.
things on wheels or if they
Right.
need to be on a foundation. I mean, things on wheels,
So here's.
they could just pull in a nice Airstream and,
So in chapter 4, I was just searching for accessory dwellings.
mm-hmm.
Accessory dwellings are allowed in any parcel where a single unit, detached dwelling unit, or duplex is permitted or currently exists. It can be on in a residential setting. Dimensional standards, all new and existing ADUs, they have to be meet applicable life safety codes, they can't be located in non-habitable areas. Commercial, size, where's the size? I can share this if you guys wanna look at it.
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Let me go back to here. Share. That, share the whole screen,
Article 4, she said.
share this.
Is this the same thing you copied off for us? For
No,
the
that,
packet?
that is the last ordinance where the question came from. The inquirer said, I saw that you adopted this tiny home definition, and I'm thinking that this is what I want.
But adopting a definition isn't the same
Right.
thing.
But she was
Yes.
asking us for clarification, and then if it would be permitted.
So, do you think she has room for a 400 square foot?
Here's what
I
it's,
don't know,
so.
I don't know because I don't know.
So this says here, which is section 4.6, that it doesn't really say anything about a minimum our maximum, it's saying that it can't be more than 80% of the, principal unit.
Yeah, it can't be.
Can't be
Yeah.
bigger.
So I don't really know if we
Well, and-
have,
It says a detached accessory dwelling shall not cover more than 30% of the available rear yard.
yeah, 80% of the square footage of the existing structures, and then what you said, which is 30% of
A
the
lot.
lot coverage,
The rear yard
or
coverage.
rear yard coverage.
Yeah.
Therefore, it could be 24 square feet.
I mean,
As long as they can live in there.
technically, I mean,
We have
but
no-
it has to have 100 square feet of storage,
Right, I remember
Yeah.
reading.
right? So the way it is now, so that'd be real hard to do that. But so I think as long as the way it is now, as long as it meets that requirement, right?
But there's still a minimum. We
Look
still
at
have
lot
the
coverage.
restrictions on minimums with no definition for
Well, we don't have.
accessory dwelling unit minimum size.
Well, that's what I mean. Right now, I can't find anything saying the minimum on the ADUs. It's just saying it has to meet.
Well, this is a little bit of a problem,
Well, we need to get more
Yeah.
information.
yeah. Well, I think
Just came up as a question.
we should talk to John about, because he put together the ordinance, didn't he, or did
No,
did
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth put it together?
Yeah. He put his whereas stamp on it. And oh, by the way, everything has to be left justified now for ADA compliance.
You mean on documents?
Uh-huh.
Oh, interesting.
So most of those legal documents
Had like
are
a
centered,
yeah.
and you can't do that.
Oh,
So
interesting.
it's gonna be, you have to change them all.
Yeah, so it says an attached ADU may be as small as permitted by the adopted building code.
An attached.
Oh, that's right. And I think,
I did this number once.
and what did the building code say?
Well, the building code says you have to have this much bathroom, this much,
Kitchen,
kitchen.
sleeping rooms.
Yeah, and then sleeping space. And I can't remember, it's in my notes,
Yeah.
So
Because
that
wrote
would be
it
the
down.
size.
right?
Mhm.
We can get that number for you, obviously.
Yeah, I remember that discussion because David was stressing that building code number.
Yeah.
And I can't remember, and I don't know if he had it, but.
It's about 400 square feet.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
about 400 square feet is right. Everything has its space, yeah, certain. amount.
Right, so do we need to add that to number to?
I don't know, because I was, apparently I was wrong about it, there being a bulk area with accessories dwelling unit in the table.
Yeah. it's
No.
not
Oh,
there.
yeah, I was wrong. I thought, for some reason, I thought it was there too, but
Yeah.
it's
I've
not.
searched and searched and searched and searched for that number, and I could never find it. I've read morning after morning looking for that number, could never find it.
I'm pretty sure it is around 400 square feet. But we'll get it.
Okay. If she, I mean, it seems like if
If the space works and
the
it's,
space works
Mhm.
per our, with no,
yeah, it's just a different definition, like
ADUs.
accessory dwelling unit, tiny home, or
Or-
tiny house.
and we're not, those are just definitions.
Right. Yeah.
And we're not interested in tiny, well, I recall that, I think didn't we talk about having, if we're gonna have small things, small ADUs, they need to be on a foundation? Or did we
Yeah, this would-
talk about, accepting,
No, it's
Structures
it's
on wheels.
foundation. I think it's on foundation according to the building code.
yes, okay.
Otherwise, it's this RVIB.
Yeah.
codes. Yeah, it's
Right.
not even built, it's
Yeah,
it's
not built
another
the same.
another code
Yeah.
for if it's on a chassis.
So it would need to be,
On a foundation.
if she could fit 400 square foot and not
Yeah.
cover more than 30% of
Oh,
the existing
It'd be more
backyard.
like 500 square feet, because it says you have to have 100 square feet of storage.
Right.
Yeah,
But that doesn't have to be part of the building. Does it?
No,
true.
does not have to be attached, but it would have to be
We
part
have
of
to
that
have it,
footprint.
yeah.
Can't be
Yeah.
more
It'd be
than
part of that
80%
30%, I would think.
We don't want people
Of
not
the
having
main
closets,
Right.
you know?
What was that, Mark?
The ADU can't be any more than 80%
Of
square foot,
the
the square
main
foot of
building.
the
Okay.
main.
But we don't have many houses that are,
That big?
550 square feet.
Yeah, I mean, that would be kind of rare, yeah.
That would, my mind was before I added on.
Okay, so if I get these definitions, it would just fit in the code because we're just saying it's an ADU.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Okay.
Can we look at yurts along with this?
Yeah, we did. We did.
Have we ever looked at them?
Yeah, we looked at them.
No,
We don't like
We
'em?
don't like them.
Really?
I
Yeah.
can't remember what it came up.
There was something, I think
Somebody
it's
wanted to
because,
build-
I think it's,
It doesn't have a building standard.
there's not a building code standard
I
for
know we
it.
discussed it.
No, there are. I mean, the company out of Montrose, Colorado, your company has offered to come and sit in front of us and talk about it. They have been developing that with the state and have done some amazing things like bring yurts to the Denver school system, you know, putting them in urban areas. And I think they've also been able to prove that they can come up to those building standards and be put on foundations and be great alternative dwelling units. And I've been reading on towns that are allowing them and not allowing them, and I think it's really interesting, and I think it goes right along with this conversation. Because I feel like with fire risk, flood risk, and insurance pulling out, people are gonna be more interested in something that's financially viable if it's to get swept away or burned down. I'd rather lose a yurt than a $750,000 stick frame myself.
Yeah, and they probably would actually be able to, there'll be insurance companies that will probably insure them,
Mm-hmm.
and it will be less, you know, so I mean,
I think what the question here is we have to look around the legalities, and we've adopted the code.
Yep.
And so we would have to look around that, what the state is requiring. What future, if there's future trends out there that might be influencing any of this. But we would need to make sure everything complied legally with stuff.
I think it's noisy.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's one of the reasons we didn't do it before, that we didn't have a legal basis for it.
But I share the concern with the flood issue. They
Yeah.
start stacking stuff in there, and you're gonna have to look at a surface area that can absorb water.
Yeah.
Instead of shoving it into your neighbors or
Yeah,
out in the sewer thing, so I think that's gonna at some point be an issue as well.
just like,
Because of the financial, I'm not arguing the financial part of what you're saying, but I think we gotta be a little careful with keeping.
Well, they'd be on a 3-foot concrete foundation, just like everything else. They have to build the.
No, I understand
To
that,
that.
but I'm saying reducing the amount of bare ground that would absorb.
we need to
Moisture.
make sure we have
or make sure-
permeable places for water
Make sure your
to be
drainage systems
absorbed
will
in
channel.
case of
Well, that's,
high rain events or flood events.
you're talking about density then?
I'm talking about density and the ability to move water or to manage
Or
water.
the amount of hardscape.
Well, we have those
hard
standards,
surface.
correct? I mean, those standards are in our standards for lot coverage and surface water. Those are all, so,
Sort of. The lot coverage is sort of a flood
It's a,
control issue,
mm-hmm.
but also aesthetics and some landscaping things. If you, I don't think, well, we can't go look at the town anymore as a group, but if you look around at some of the structures around town, some of the older stuff that isn't on, that are on the smaller lots in R3 and some of that, there's some, I would think there's some issues. And we're saying any main house basically can have an accessory dwelling unit. I think we just need to be a little careful
how much,
How much are
hard,
we gonna
hard
allow
surface,
that?
hard
or
surfaces
maybe
on
the
the
standards
lot.
are okay.
Yeah.
But
Those standards are in place though, correct? I mean, we just allowed ADUs throughout town except for in mobile home parks and
well,
they're,
Yes,
they have to, they have to be held to the standard of lot coverage minimums, right?
yes.
So a small lot therefore with a huge spread can't really have an ADU if they maximize or go over that threshold, correct?
Correct.
That's correct.
I was just curious of, you know, if we're going down the tiny home talk, I sort of feel like, why not open it up a little wider into other alternative structures as other communities are doing it as well? I think it's worth taking a look at before we end up.
Well, and I think the question is, what towns are allowing them as houses?
I can't name them specifically, but I've seen
I
it,
mean, as
read.
opposed to like, you know, daytime classrooms or, you know, but living structures.
There's several towns out there. A lot of them are in Oregon, Washington, places like that. I've seen a lot of different places that are very happy with them and being in their communities, and being built to the same standards as any ADU or dwelling unit when it comes to fire.
I mean, do they fit in there's code around what you can build with. So we would have to change that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, well, isn't that part of the building code?
Well, I'll look into the building code piece for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know that currently, just because they're out there doesn't mean, like the ICC may be like, nope, and then that puts your town in that 10-10 kind of thing
Yeah,
in terms of your code for insurance and such. So.
Megan from Colorado, your company, is like ready for an invite to come and speak
Well,
to it.
I can put it on the agenda for the board and then it can be a thumbs up or thumbs down on whether people want to investigate. It's just, I'll be honest, I'm stretched thin and I can't go do all the work on a yurt.
Yeah,
If
that's
you're
kind
the
of
only
our
one that wants a yurt,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I can put it in front of the board as a whole and then you guys can vote on it. And then if we want to go down that road, I'll do the work. Does that sound fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yeah, sure.
Just clarification.
Yeah.
Did you all just decide that, or agree, that ADUs, tiny homes, tiny houses are all okay as long as they're on a permanent foundation? Was that kind of the
Tiny
final?
homes are not okay because they're not on a permanent foundation.
By definition.
By definition.
Is that,
That's in the packet.
yeah, so
It's
is
also
that,
in the code, this CRS code right here, Colorado State Code.
so the tiny home,
It's only,
That's a,
right,
that's a state definition.
that's a drivable one. I saw one stranded on, 160 going into Durango. Somebody was pulling it down the road and they pulled it
Tiny home,
on.
which is on wheels.
Right,
Yeah.
so, but if you brought it in, took it off the wheels, put it on a foundation,
well then it's no longer a tiny home, it's a tiny house.
Then it becomes a tiny house.
right?
So,
So
I
it's
know,
like, you know, how, you know, like modulars.
yeah, no, it's a.
They're
it's
on wheels and
It's
they're
a
lifting,
prefab, a tiny house definition is a prefab,
right?
Yeah.
Tiny house, tiny
Yeah.
home,
tiny house
tiny house.
is a prefab.
So that would be okay.
But it could be, but that might be shipped in on a truck.
But it's 400 or less, and
400 or less, yes.
and I don't know if we're gonna get to the 400 or less unless we actually say so, right? I mean,
No, it says
80%.
it says as small as the building,
Code
our code
allows.
right now says as small as the building code permits
Yeah.
for square
Yeah.
footage.
So we'll get that number tomorrow. It's somewhere between 500 and 400.
We're not,
So if
we're
your
not
tiny-
making new
If your tiny
definitions.
home is 250 square feet, then it's a hard no. Or-
No, no.
We don't know yet.
If it doesn't meet the building code, it's a no.
I see.
That's the way it is now. We didn't specifically talk about tiny homes and tiny houses, we just talked about size of a building.
Right.
And we just talked about the small accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah, I mean,
And I don't know, and the state's definitions are confusing, so.
right, for sure.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. And they are they are now defined, which when you all were putting this
They
land
weren't
use code
defined,
together,
yeah,
they were
yeah.
not defined like that.
Yeah.
So as things change, you know, just as you're saying, things changed on the Front Range, I'm sure, they
Yeah.
started it, and then they decided to create these definitions by law,
Yeah.
right? So there's a statute in there that says what it is.
There would have to be all kinds of updates to the land use code for these communities that are doing, like, say, for example, the tiny home villages, which are all on chassis, right? Those are all,
Those are kind of
Those
like,
are- so they would-
mobile home parks, you know?
well, yeah,
They're
actually.
mobile- They're kind of
so-
mobile home parks.
Sort
Yeah,
of.
we
I've
won't-
seen
I won't
some
go
pretty
down
cool
that.
ones in orchards.
Huh?
In orchards, I've seen some cool ones in orchards.
In
Yeah.
orchards.
That are on wheels.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I guess those would just be allowed
Well, we
in a
don't-
mobile home park because
Yeah.
they're basically no different, right?
And part of the issue with that is we don't have, within the town limits, we don't have a lot of land that could be developed into.
Well, yeah, no.
They would have to apply to have a mobile home
But it would,
park
but it
or
could just
something
go
like
into a
that.
mobile home park that's
Yeah, yeah,
existing,
yeah,
right? That's
yeah.
where the place would be for
Yeah,
those, right?
yeah.
It's already zoned as a mobile home park. You
Yeah,
can go in
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
So did you get
Or
your
an
question
RV park,
answered?
you know?
Oh,
So
yeah,
we
makes
are
your-
approving-
Makes your head spin.
I think
We are,
it's-
we have approval already in the code for accessory dwelling units that are as small as the building code
Code
permits.
allows.
Which is pretty
So you
small.
wouldn't have to change anything
I
essentially.
think it's around 400 square feet,
Yeah,
as
something
I
like that.
recall.
And if not, then we'd have to go back and change it
Yeah,
to fit the definition.
It's like 70 square foot for kitchen, 70 square foot for bedroom.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a pretty small number when you add it all up. It's
Mm-hmm.
400 to 500 square feet.
yeah. So, I mean, I remember really wanting to be able to, you know, have small places for, you know, a single person with not a lot of stuff, you know?
I'm planning on putting my 2 kids in doggy and cat. Less
You're gonna give 'em-
toys,
you have to
less
give them each a
everything.
tap. You have to give them each a tap.
Well, and then really, if it's over 400 square feet, it's not even considered a tiny house.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
If it's
it's just,
over
it would
400.
just be an ADU that met the requirements, you know.
right.
As long as it's on a permanent foundation.
Uh-huh. It can be a prefab.
Attached to our
Yeah.
infrastructure.
It can be prefab, it doesn't have to be custom built.
And independent
Okay.
hookups
That-
and all
yeah.
that.
But it has, and then it has to have, you know, it's separate.
Water tap and
Water
all
and
that.
sewer tap.
Sure. Self-sufficient.
Yeah, and, you know, pay into our collective system for managing the sewer and water.
So is that a hard no on the bubble homes, you know? Okay,
Geo
yeah.
don't.
I don't know.
There's a cold water making us right on the highway.
We have
So you're
not,
saying there's a chance?
we haven't put a, yeah, we didn't put a no on those.
The only thing we put a no on was mobile homes. We said no more
No
mobile
more mobile homes. Okay.
Yeah, it does come down to space,
Yeah,
yeah. And then density gets interesting because of wildfires.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Okay.
and we might have to, you know, amend that, you know, tiny houses need to be sided with, you know, fireproof materials or
Yeah, sure.
something,
They
you
have
know.
clearances from other buildings.
And
square
enough
footage.
clearances,
Yeah,
you know, they need to honor the setbacks.
That's actually the issue, yeah.
Sounds like we all probably need to
Setbacks
revisit this
would be-
entire subject for some serious visit, because I feel like it is gonna become more
It is
popular.
good, yes,
Like it's,
yeah.
I know a
Agreed.
lot of people in my circles talking about that. I think it's very, people want it. They want smaller spaces.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't even go to a builder and build a 400 square foot home for under $260,000. So of course, you know,
yeah,
yeah, so I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like, that's where we're
They're
at. So,
desirable.
so these are going to be, this is where it's going. I mean, it's happening. Out of necessity.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
What's that, about $400 a square foot?
That's
Yeah.
easy. Yeah, that's, tell you right now, my brother-in-law is an architect, it's $1,200 a square foot, you know, and Rico with 500, 600,
Yeah.
700 a square foot is not even out of the question. And it's,
Nope.
so that's for, yeah, That's hard. That's hard to stomach.
In Mountain Village, you have to pay
It's all gonna be modular.
$50,000 for the right to put a heated driveway in, so you don't have to shovel.
And then they,
And they're about to increase it.
and then they also, in Mountain Village, you have to, well, they only issue so many permits in that whole area for fireplaces, and I don't know where they're doing, what they're doing. But it's really limited and you have to pay, like,
Lot to
for
have
the permit, and then people sell them
Yeah.
and
Wow.
resell them.
Holy cow. It's getting crazy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the end
Did
of
that help you?
my thing. Sure. Yeah, I'm sure it helped.
Wayback Machine, that's the problem.
We might identify that that needs to be clarified a little bit more, so.
Yeah, I've got that
Yeah.
in my notes, and I'm sure Ann has it in her notes.
I'm working on it.
Well, if you don't, you can
Okay.
go through my chicken scratch. I don't think Attorney Kelly has anything here. You saw, David's report?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. Yeah. Yeah, okay. They're moving forward on the 8th Street property, the hillside, the one between 8th and 9th. They were digging out for the foundation the other day. I drove by.
And that's engineered, right? He's got engineered
Yeah.
permits for all that,
Yep,
okay.
yep. Yeah.
What Michael C. Green refused to do.
Well, this was a tear down, right? They tore some house down and are redoing it. It's like our first tear down. Like, wow, okay, we're hitting it big now. Okay, so commissioner updates.
I didn't do a report.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so now we're on to, one of my favorite topics. The
Comprehensive plan.
Yeah. Commissioner
So,
Tucker.
That, so, just another note on the agenda, 10.2 says review of items to be prepared for the February 4th meeting.
Yeah,
What
it
does
was
that
on our,
mean?
it was kind of in our notes that we're gonna do next meeting. But I don't think Mark did produce that,
This
two
document which we put out for everybody.
Three-page
It's on the-
So it would be
Something like
review
that.
of items prepared for the February 4th meeting?
Ideally, but we didn't get anything in the packet, so.
Well, yeah, the only thing we've got prepared is, I did reach out, I talked to Megan Moore, who's gonna be here on the 18th and 19th. She is from Logan Simpson
Oh,
and does, she has sort of a, somebody she works with, Jen Gardner's doing the presentation for Cortez's land use code.
oh,
Because Cortez hired Logan Simpson for their land use code. And so I talked to her, we're gonna get together while they're here
okay.
and try to figure out the best way for us to move forward.
Okay,
And figure out
Good.
what it'll cost in terms of this topic pretty much right here. Because I think if we get this in place, we can, and this is the communications plan. Did you get one, Chris?
Yep.
Okay. And Mark put this together.
No, I didn't put it together.
Okay, sorry.
I went to the fire community, that's a template. So
Yeah.
the more detail that we have, that'll improve the functionality of that, but that's just a starting point to try and,
for the communication.
yeah, to
Right.
try and figure out how we want
Which
to
is,
do that.
yeah, probably the biggest part of what they would be doing is the communication plan.
Yeah.
And writing it, and putting a document together,
Well, yeah,
which are big deals.
no, I know, but that's gonna be dictated by funding, right?
I hope not.
Well, we don't have because of the sales tax issue, we lost 140,000 this year.
I know, I'm just saying that it's like, you guys needed to have the land use code redone because it was confusing, and I don't want the comprehensive plan to become the same thing. So we just need to make sure it's done thoroughly.
Sure. Yeah. So we're gonna look at different plans over time and see what we can fund. And then, you know, we could in fact go to the board and say, hey, this is really important. But it would be coming out of reserve, so we have to figure that part out. I think, we can either work through this document together. I can take a stab at this and come back based on, what we have already, like the 97 comprehensive plan annual land use code that we have put in place, and try to create some of these. And then, Megan is here on the 18th and 19th and
Of this month?
February.
Okay.
And so I told them I could meet them anytime they were available. And I'm not sure if one or both are coming down. It might just be Jen Gardner. And she's a land use code person. So,
Not a comprehensive plan person.
I don't actually know. I didn't talk to Jen Gardner. I talked to Megan Moore, so.
Gotcha.
Jen
Sometimes they
Gardner
can
will
be
be
the same,
here.
sometimes
and-
they're not.
Yeah, it could be the same Jen
Yeah.
person. I don't really know.
So we talked about, I think Chris brought that up last time on the cost. Is it, are we required to do a complete comp plan revision, or can we, based on cost, say, here are the 2 or 3 most important things we need to deal with now,
Right.
and then
Work from there.
just go from there? We have that flexibility.
Sure. I mean, the 97 is in place. I'm sure, there's a and I know in Arizona you have to update it every 5 years. Well, we're so far past that.
And Colorado recommends it every
5 years?
5 years.
Okay.
Well, I was just thinking of the penalty that we incurred because we had to go do the land use code before the comp plan, looking at.
Yeah.
So I was wondering don't we have a Congress or a legislative rep we can go in and talk to and say, hey, we're getting screwed because we did what we were told. Is there any way you could talk to the people that fund it and give us a break? I mean, to me, that's, at least get it on the record somehow that we did what we were told. We didn't know.
Who is that? Katie Stewart?
Yeah, I think that's right. Anyway,
Katie
just to
Stewart
might help
and
her
Cleve
if it is.
Simpson.
Huh?
Katie Stewart and Cleve Simpson. Those are our 2 representatives. One's House and one's Senate.
We'd also want to make sure that anything that we did would meet the requirements of grantors,
Sure.
as a document in place that would be foundational for what we're asking for the money for.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it would probably be mainly around historical preservation. There aren't a lot of grants that go, what's your comp plan? At least I haven't run into them.
Well, that would be.
No, I'm not talking about the grants to implement, if we made, I'm really not.
That's okay.
too-
You and I are on the same page.
Yeah. What I'm thinking is a comprehensive plan lays out a whole series of things that are town priorities.
Sure.
So, for instance, we have nothing in our comp plan about internet, fiber optics, anything like that.
Yeah.
If we applied for a grant to get money to create that infrastructure, it would need to be in our comp plan.
Sure.
So that's what I'm,
I understand.
yeah, so I'm not talking about money for, grant
comp
money
plan.
for a comp plan, I'm talking
No,
about
no,
grant
right.
money to implement.
No,
it.
yeah.
The reason the
That's a good-
document needs,
Yeah.
It's a good
what the
example.
service,
That's a good example.
what it serves.
And that was precisely why we created those action plans. The town, back in the mid-90s, refused to do a comp plan, which meant we were not eligible for all kinds of money that were important for acquiring Joe Park. And so we just created a nonprofit and did it, and the governor gave us an award for doing it.
Nice.
Yeah, but
But I really don't think that we should piecemeal a
I don't
land
think
use
we
code
should
or a
either. I
comp
think
plan
the
at this
town needs
point.
to put its adult panties on and,
Oh,
yeah.
and
pony up. I mean, you can tell them, and I'll talk to them. We've been trying to get this to happen.
I
There's a
understand.
significant sector of, an official sector of the town that's really been pushing to have this happen for
Right.
quite a while. And we did what we could,
Right.
you know, for advice with the time that we had. And the restrictions he had, I'll vouch for it.
Jason just said that Mancus just rewrote theirs, correct?
I don't know, I don't remember.
I think that's what Jason said in his.
Their comp plan or their land
Mhm.
use code?
Their comp plan.
Their comp plan.
That was in part of like his job description, more or less, is he kind of sought counsel to help rewrite it, so yeah, I'd be interested to know what their procedure was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can ask him.
Phone call number 646.
Thankfully, I have his text number. Some of them are easier than other
Yeah,
ones.
yeah, yeah.
I see him all the time. We work on so many things together.
So Lee, what were you saying about this, though? Whether or not we should do it together, or whether
Yeah, right.
you wanted to dive into it? You were.
Well,
Well, can we review it quickly? Mark, will you go over it with us? Because we haven't had a chance to really go through it.
Actually, I just got this today.
Oh,
And I don't, oh, it's this up here.
yeah.
yeah,
I like it because it lays out a very organized approach and helps define, once you define what you want to address, it identifies potential audiences and issues and all that. It's very, to me, black and white. The work part of it is identifying what the objectives and desired outcomes are gonna take a little bit of time, I think, for all of us to come to some agreement. Key audiences, that I hope that shouldn't be that big of a deal, I think, between all
And
of
this
us.
is just for the communication plan, not for the,
Yeah, that's it,
not
isn't
for
that
the
what we're
code
talking
itself.
about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
Just
what I'm saying, I
clarifying.
think it's pretty logical on how it's laid out, and I like if you turn it over, the different approaches, is you can identify your audiences and then look at how you wanna address those specific concerns to a specific audience, and you got some kind of a template to at least go forward. I mean, it's pretty, I don't know. And I'm gonna, once we start getting a few issues on, she's willing to customize it a little bit more. But when you're on a fire team and you go into a new town, new county,
Okay.
this is what they use, because you've got about 48 hours to figure out who's who and all this other stuff and get moving. So this is pretty common. Now, I've not ever had to do it, I just know those guys
who did this come
pretty
from?
much. Huh?
Who did this come from?
Forest
This came
Service.
from a retired Forest Service PIO.
Gotcha. Oh,
And
cool.
so it's gone through the test phase, but, in the advent of technology, they're doing stuff on YouTube now for town meetings and stuff like that, fire briefings and all that stuff, so it is changing. But again, the point being is it's a very compressed, I think useful and easy to use, to start with anyway.
Do you guys want to go through it as a group at some point? Not now, but,
No, I think there's some things we could do for the next meeting, like
Right.
look at objectives, key audiences, and some
you
strategies.
mean everybody just on their
Independently.
own?
Yeah, if you bring your own, I'll
Bring your
And
own.
then maybe
Okay.
bring
before,
some, and then
before
we
the
can.
next meeting, a week or something, we send them to Ann and she puts them all together and we,
So you think we should do this before our next meeting?
And
And then
well, if we
send
have
it to
time.
Ann?
We said, what, April 2026, we're gonna have this thing done. So I just think we need to, at some point, start taking a stab.
No,
at some
we
of this.
definitely do.
And again, just to clarify, this is the communication regarding
The
presenting,
Community.
collecting data
Getting,
for
Are we
the,
getting community
How are we going to
yeah.
for the.
reach out and communicate with who we think we need to and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And the outcomes of basically is a modern or up-to-date comp plan, but we'll have to do maybe some other stuff we hadn't thought about yet.
Yeah.
So, and I think, and the other thing I think is identifying the audience is important, because that's gonna dictate how we want to communicate with people. I mean, I don't think we can put stuff in the newspaper. I don't think people read newspapers anymore, hardly, that kind of stuff. So how do you do that, and who do you talk to? I think that stuff, writing that down, might bring some
Usefulness.
efficiency to the process. And I think, would think at the first cut, nobody's gonna have a perfect answer, but I think if I can get some of this stuff to Pam, she might be able to fine tune a little more. But she did say she was late, apologized because she's retired. So, anyway.
And you said so am I.
Yes, I understand. Yeah, she's really good. It's just that the more information you have, you can do a better job. So she volunteered to help out a little more than that, but, so anyway, I just thought it was logical, I guess, is what I was saying. I would point out.
So we're all gonna fill out our own forms? And you
Well,
guys want this
I
in
think that would be.
Yeah.
you want
I
this
would
in
shop
an
that,
electronic
and
document
then-
so you can just add in?
Yeah, that'd be
Okay.
great.
Everybody has their own different contacts in town and their issues and all that stuff.
Be a way to
Then-
compile
Yeah.
a list to edit, at least,
Help us figure out how we wanna communicate, obviously. Duh.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it too.
I think individually we'd bring a different aspect to it. We'd all be able to bring a different approach rather than trying to do it all together, but then come back and do it all together essentially.
I think we should get cars and big megaphones and drive,
I like
Not too
it.
hard. Pretty small town.
get some dancers on the truck.
My kids will do it.
Okay.
Give them a megaphone, they'll be on
They
all
love
day
it.
long.
That'd be hilarious. Okay,
And you and I
Okay,
we do
sweet.
this too?
I would
All right.
say, yeah.
I would.
Please do.
Okay,
I mean, it's gonna be a public process, so what the heck?
yeah,
okay.
Okay.
all right, did we get through everything?
I think so, because we covered tiny homes and tiny homes.
Yeah, we did.
And so I'll go do some work on that. And check that specific property. Although, she should probably do that.
Well, you're gonna probably make a response for her and just send her the little,
Document.
we're getting to know you form.
Yeah.
What was getting to know you?
Oh, we have people inquiring, I was thinking about putting an accessory structure on my property. And then you just send them this form that says, what is your property? How big is it? How many structures are on it?
Have them get the data.
How's it situated? What
Yeah.
zone is it in? Yeah.
Yeah, do you have a plat? Yeah. Please send in your site plan.
Yeah.
Dimensions. I mean, it could be sketched, but you gotta have something, yeah.
We have to determine what regulations that would
Yeah.
be applied to the,
Yeah. Address.
I
Yeah.
think, the church on First Street sold, I think. They haven't closed yet.
Yeah, I seen that under contract, yeah. Does anybody know what they're gonna do?
Build a church.
Gonna be another church?
oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Do you have any idea what church? It's gonna be
You
Mormon.
don't. No. It's gonna be, I don't know.
I can't say, but I don't know for sure if it's a Christian-oriented church or some other kind, like an alternative.
Oh,
Well, I mean,
Oh.
it's good that it's gonna get, something's gonna be done with it, so.
Yeah.
They're gonna fix the sewer line,
Yeah,
and so that'll be nice.
I know, I just did that.
And update it.
Is it working?
Yes,
Does
it is
does
working.
go like that?
No, mine's working, so
Well, it was-
I'm good
is
so
it-
far.
is it zoned for like a public use,
Yeah.
right? So, and it was used as a commercial use. It
Well, most
wasn't
recently it was.
Mercantile.
the habitat.
Yeah, mercantile, and now it's
Yeah.
gonna be back to assembly.
And so, I'm just thinking if there would have to be other updates
There are.
to the structure
few,
based
yeah.
on the use, the change of use. Yeah,
Got a lot of weeds to control.
lots of weeds there to control,
I
yes.
think one of the big things too is that, you know, if you do anything, there's asbestos in there too.
Is there asbestos in that?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you look at it?
Real quick while I'm thinking
Yeah.
about it, Ann, when I asked you to print those out,
Mhm.
documents, did you have any trouble getting into the document?
No, I
Just
just,
be careful when you get into that communication plan. I had a heck of a time trying to download it and do whatever, so I'm gonna try and fix that. Keep a copy somewhere so you, if it goes off in space, you'll have something.
it just might be a conflict with the software that you got it from and the software that you're using. It might,
I'm sure it's my fault, I just, I don't know if I can figure it out.
I haven't even attempted.
Is it worth, like, doing a workshop at some point about some of those tiny home issues, some of those building code issues, like,
A workshop for this group?
for this group? Is that not how it works?
Who's gonna, what information, I mean, we've gone through the whole,
Yeah.
we've gone through this process and we thought it through. What other information is there to present? I mean,
Well, I just like the tiny home topic, you know, that, like that whole entire thing.
we
where-
talked about it a lot.
Yeah,
Right,
We did.
cool. I'm just asking, just to clarify
yeah.
if there were more questions based on that
We talked
conversation.
with, I mean, I don't see that there's a big difference between
There isn't.
a
really.
tiny house and a small ADU. That's the minimum size
By building code.
by building
Because that's how we
code.
Cool.
defined it.
I
in
think
the
it's the
language.
Yeah, it
same.
makes sense.
Yeah.
But this would be a place with the communication plan, the template.
Yeah.
On a more general level, in terms of a town goal, is affordable housing one
Sure.
of them? And how are we going to
Sure.
address it? And then that would justify creating sections in the land use code for
Yeah.
that. But that's why we kind of got
Yeah.
the cart
Yeah.
ahead of everything.
Yeah. Good point.
That would be a good, and strategies for affordable housing and what's legal.
Well, sort of. I mean, when you say affordable housing, that affordable rentals?
Well, I mean, that would be
Just
to
places
sort
to
of
live.
define what you mean in the comprehensive plan, what we see as
Sure.
the issue.
Well, because, let's say in this example, you put a tiny house on a foundation, it's back there, now we're gonna divide it and sell it?
No, that's not
No.
legal.
Right.
That's not legal in that.
Right, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
No,
So you
no,
mean
and
more
that,
of a rental.
no.
But maybe affordable housing is
Increases
rentals.
inventory.
We wouldn't,
Long-term rentals.
Yeah, long-term rentals, which
Right.
is needed.
Yeah,
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
one of the reasons we, said we could allow, ADUs in many more places than we originally did.
yeah.
And put them at a small, square footage, because also the main owner would need to live in the house, the main house.
Sure.
So that would control some of the, sort of real estate grabbing around
Right.
lots and whatnot.
Yeah.
But the comp plan part of that would contain what aspirations that link in with county demographics or whatever we wanted to
Mhm,
limit
yes.
them in. That I think basically what we're saying is we don't want this to be, Telluride South on some level. That, again, when you start mentioning things like tear downs, the whole nature of the town can change.
Sure.
How's that for?
Yeah.
I just gotta quit talking.
That's the key, aspirational,
Yeah,
that there's nothing wrong with having that in writing, is the
yeah.
big picture and
I
ice
mean,
cream and cookies, but,
But that's
But
the
if it's
point,
not
our
out
goals,
there,
you know, and
They're not
aspirations.
leaving tracks,
Yeah,
and that's important for the next go-round to come here.
yeah.
I think whatever we want in terms of specifics, I think most of us would agree that this is a beautiful place and we would love for our children and grandchildren to be here and be able to afford to be here.
Yeah,
That's the $1 million question,
yeah,
as to how to achieve that.
yeah.
Well, but again, to have that as an aspirational goal.
That can drive
Starts
other-
to get people thinking about that instead of the, well, it's gonna be better for everyone and we're gonna get more taxed if we have multi-million-dollar homes here. Which is, the kind of reasoning that we get when we talk about doing things. Is, what revenue is it going to bring in and for
That's the bottom
whom?
line, yeah.
Yeah, I'm for
Crabby.
tired of that.
One quick thing too, I was thinking about, it was a note somewhere where we, internally, the statistics in the comp plan were gonna be revised or confirmed.
Yep,
And that is the town staff that's gonna be,
sure.
Working on that?
I wasn't being facetious. I
No,
was
it's
just-
not as hard as you think. Region 9 has those crazy.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted
So, yeah, I
Okay.
put some of those in the GoCo grant, so.
Yes, you've got right there.
to, cool. That's good to know.
Well, I quote the average median income all the time.
Okay.
So, I think we can get.
So if you wanted to update, say for example, the demographics in the comp plan, can you do that ahead of time? Like, or does it have to be adopted or amended?
No, it is what it is, right? It's sort of set by the state demographer,
Mm-hmm.
because they go out in the
So
census.
that can be, go ahead
Yeah.
and be done with the existing comp plan without
Note
any
to
other
self,
type of,
do this.
process as far as.
Well, that would have to have some kind of amendment.
Yeah.
It would have to be amended.
Could it just be in an appendix?
Well, sure, I
You
mean,
just
but
have to
getting the
reference the-
statistics.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
the
getting that.
Statistics are the statistics, but yeah, then, yeah.
We
That's a
can get
great
this-
website. The
what?
Mon-
We'd have to
the
adopt
Montefiore
something,
State
sure.
Montefiore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Great
really
website.
interesting.
Yeah.
So, 27.9.
Oh.
That's the medium. Wow.
For Dolores,
That's, what is it?
27.9,
900.
right,
27,900 what?
that's the average median income in
Yeah.
Dolores.
Yeah, I
That
know,
doesn't
that,
tell you something.
oh wow, yeah, I think I did read that somewhere,
A
that's,
long ways to go.
that's,
It's pretty
yeah,
drastic, isn't it?
yeah, that is for,
And it's ridiculous given the property
Um,
prices right now.
well, I think that's because we have a lot of seniors on fixed incomes too.
That contributes to it,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
I'm there too, my income's kind of fixed.
Refused.
You're not-
Yeah.
you're not retired.
Trump takes away my pension.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, there's a lot of things going against it, right? So if you were gonna buy a property now and you even got a reasonable price, you're still at 7% interest, which just makes your payment 22, add your insurance, your property tax,
Insurance.
and then,
Gotta get worried.
get it
Yeah.
funded through a mortgage company, and then you wanna rent it. Like, the first thing I got when I bought my house was some letter from somebody in Wisconsin that was like, we'll manage your property.
Oh, God.
And you're like, no, you won't, I'll manage my own property. But it's just,
It's brutal.
it's lots of people buying houses that they don't live in. And they're either
Investments.
turning them, they're investments, yes, so they might be rentals, depending on where they are, they might be short-term rentals or long-term rentals or, whatever.
Or they just sit
So-
on it for a while.
Well, and there's another issue
Yeah.
too, we had a discussion at the chamber meeting this morning too about as far as commercial property, right? That's just bought and then
Sit on
they sit on it, so that inventory is just sitting there for years,
Right.
because
They don't do anything.
they don't need the money, they don't, it's just a speculative
Or-
investment.
So, the old Hollywood property,
Yeah.
he looked at putting stuff on that, and right now it doesn't pencil out. It's like I'm saying now, right? So if I buy a house and it costs me $2,600 a month, and then I try to rent it, that doesn't include utilities, it's just my insurance, my mortgage, your
Yeah.
property taxes, right?
Yeah,
So for, for him to put something on that property that's 30% commercial and residential, so over, under, however we decide, right, however it decides, at $500 a square foot, and depending on size, if you get into where you have to put in a sprinkler system.
you can't
now-
do it.
Right, you're just
Yeah,
like,
no,
I'm
you
not
can't.
gonna do it
You're
right
not
now.
gonna recoup
No, I
that
know,
money.
you can't.
That's how
can't-
people sit on it, because what business can rent that and make the income they need to make to pay their rent
Yeah.
right now? Doesn't mean it won't change.
I just
Just
did
means
the
it's for right
math.
now.
$2,600 rent is $31,200 a year. So you'd have to be better than median income just to
Yeah.
pay rent.
I'm just trying to hold on to family legacy of like being raised on that property and trying to like preserve a place in this town to stay and raise kids and raise grandkids, and it's like it is really difficult with mortgages that are that high, and
Yeah.
the price of building is so high. It's like you're up against it, your hands are tied, and it's like that's why personally like things like ADUs and tiny homes, and I know everyone doesn't like them, but it's like there's a lot of us that need that option to be able to survive in a place that we really wish to survive in.
And that's why we added that, the ADUs.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
thank you very much
Yeah.
for that.
I can understand, back to the commercial property, somebody
Sure.
that's owned it forever, right? And it's been in their family forever, and nothing makes sense as far as to convert it. But I'm talking about people that have just come in and bought commercial property
Speculators.
recently,
Yeah.
right?
And you're just sitting.
And they certainly could find a tenant, right, for some money, but they're not even doing that. I mean, it's just sitting there,
Yeah.
you know? So that's what I'm trying to understand, is that wouldn't some money or some be better than nothing?
I don't know. Depends, right? Do you have a property in mind? Or just,
Well, I'm just, for example, right, I don't really have property, but for example, like the old Montezuma's,
yeah,
for example.
okay.
Carol Skeet.
Oh, that place down
Property.
there, okay.
Yeah. On the other side of
Part of the
Essex.
trailer park too?
Cause it was just recent, it was
Actually,
recently bought, you know, so it was,
Chris, somebody owns it,
yes, huh?
right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, for example, like, you know, the thrift store was there, and then,
Part of it is traffic, right? The thrift store couldn't make it because there wasn't
There's
enough
not
traffic
enough
down there.
traffic.
well, yeah, so I mean,
You need like a
does that
Macy's or
does it even make
something.
sense for it to even be commercial, I guess, I don't know, I mean,
It's on the highway.
maybe not, I mean,
Right.
but I'm just saying, like, there's, yeah, I mean,
I mean,
The
it's
trailer
not
park
the
went along
town's
with it.
problem to
No.
fix people's businesses for
well,
Sure.
no, but it's just,
overall.
it's just trends
Yeah.
that, you know, you have to, like, you know,
Well,
look
if interest rates even got down to 5, it'd be a lot easier to manage that, then that would make a big difference.
Well, commercial property is extremely sensitive to interest rates because they're on 5-year balloons, and usually your loan amounts are, you know, higher than residential loan amounts,
Sure.
and they reset and they could go from 5 to 8. I had that happen, you know, so, I mean, and it makes a huge difference.
My house is on that, so.
You know, you're like, oh, yeah, I got here sooner.
It's a
than
roll of the
thought.
dice, right?
Oh, yeah, it's scary, you're
I
like,
know, it's
you're like, what do I
terrifying.
do? You know, this is coming up in 2 years. Where are we gonna be? You know, so
Are we finished with business at this
I think
point?
so, yeah.
let's adjourn and then we can keep talking if
thank you.
anybody
Sorry
wants to
about
talk. No, it's okay. Let's adjourn this meeting at 8:10. All right, keep talking.
that. Yeah, no, it's just
Our homework, this was great, necessarily.
Recording
I mean,
stopped.
This is a matter of economics with
Yeah, I know.
inflation and